Hello and thanks for joining us. It's 7:55 a.m. on Saturday, April 28th here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom. It is the morning after one of the most, if not the most, remarkable days here in Korea. We are going to be with you throughout the weekend to keep you up to date on the latest developments after the unprecedented cooling of tensions here on the Korean Peninsula. So let's give you a rundown of what we witnessed on Friday, a summit agreement between the leaders of South and North Korea, President Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un. In the Panmunjom Declaration for Peace, Prosperity and the Unification of the Korean Peninsula, the two leaders pledged to remove nuclear weapons from the Korean Peninsula. They also agreed to turn the demilitarized zone, the DMZ, between the two Koreas into a, quote, genuine peace zone and stop all hostile activities in scenes that will be etched into the minds of the Korean people for years to come. Kim Jong-un crossed the DMZ into the south, the first North Korean leader to do that. Our Moon Gon-young, part of the Panmunjom press pool, starts us off.
A final peace and no nuclear arms. The leaders of South and North Korea embraced on Friday after agreeing to work towards the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula on a day of smiles and handshakes at the historic Inter-Korean summit in over a decade.
오늘 김정은 위원장과 나는 완전한 비핵화를 통해 핵 없는 한반도를 실현하는 것이 우리의 공동 목표라는 것을 확인했습니다.
The fact that Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un spent so much time together and came up with a joint statement that even includes the word denuclearization marked a surprising development after a year of threats and missile launches that brought the specter of war back to the Korean Peninsula. The two Koreas also announced that they would work with the United States and China this year to declare an official end to the 1950s Korean War and seek an agreement to establish permanent and solid peace.
평화로운 땅에서 번영과 행복을 누리는 새 시대를 열어나갈 확고한 의지를 같이 하고 이를 위한 실천적 대책들을 합의하였습니다.
The delegation includes promises to pursue phased arms reduction, seize hostile acts, transform their fortified border into a peace zone, and seek multilateral talks with other countries, including the United States. Even the most optimistic analysts were surprised at the scope of the agreement, noting in particular that Kim has now signed a document that includes the word denuclearization. But the North Korean leader did not mention denuclearization, and analysts warned that while the summit was a good first step, similar promises had been made before and much remained to be done to resolve the issue of the North atomic arsenal. In coming weeks, the North Korean leader is due to hold a much-anticipated meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump, who's demanded Pyongyang give up its weapons that will be crucial in shaping progress. Moon Gon-young, Arirang News.
Now, the Panmunjom Declaration, signed and sealed on Friday by the leaders of the Koreas, also gives fresh hope to the families separated by the Korean War that they can be reunited as soon as possible. Hwang Ho-jun reports on how a solution was reached to one of the saddest aspects of the decades-old ill will between the two Koreas.
For those who have been separated from their loved ones for more than half a century, it was an announcement that couldn't have come soon enough. The Panmunjom Declaration, the joint agreement reached Friday by South Korean President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, stipulates that the two Koreas will cooperate to swiftly resolve humanitarian issues resulted from the division of the nation. In other words, Seoul and Pyongyang will seek to resolve issues regarding the reunion of separated families by convening an inter-Korean Red Cross meeting.
더 늦기 전에 이산가족들의 만남이 시작될 것이며 고향을 방문하고 서신을 교환할 것입니다.
The earliest reunion will take place this coming August 15th, which is the National Liberation Day or Gwangbokjeol. The two Koreas also agreed to actively implement the projects previously stipulated in past inter-Korean agreements to promote a balanced economic growth and co-prosperity. To start it all off, the two sides agreed to adopt practical steps to link and modernize railways and roads between them on the eastern side of the peninsula, as well as between Seoul and the city of Siniju in the northwest of North Korea. Along with these agreements, the two Koreas also decided to set up a permanent joint communication office in the North Korean city of Kaesong, in addition to the two existing liaison offices located on each side of the border. The move is to prevent miscommunications from hampering inter-Korean ties from here on and to accelerate the regularization of inter-Korean talks. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
Now, lowering military tensions on the Korean Peninsula was another one of the three major agendas set by the leaders of South and North Korea. Moon and Kim agreed to cease all hostile acts near the DMZ starting May 1st and to discuss specific measures at general-level military talks next month as well. All of this is happening a matter of months after it looked like war could break out at any time here on the Korean Peninsula. Oh Jung-hee with more.
The first military talks in 3 years are expected to be held next month as part of efforts to lower military tension on the Korean Peninsula and eliminate the possibility of war. At the summit talks on Friday, South Korean President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un agreed that the military authorities of Seoul and Pyongyang will from now on meet frequently. They sealed the deal to hold a general-level military talks in May for de-escalating tensions at both their land and maritime borders. Hostile acts at the border area will be ceased as well.
The two sides agreed to end all hostile acts near the military demarcation line as of May 1st. That includes turning off loudspeaker broadcasts and stopping the distribution of propaganda leaflets. We also agreed to transform the current demilitarized zone into a truly demilitarized peace zone.
That involves simply carrying out what's already been stipulated in the 1953 Armistice Agreement, removing military forces in areas of up to 2 kilometers north and south of the inter-Korean border. If carried out, Seoul sees this as contributing greatly to preventing accidental clashes. At the joint press announcement after the talks, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un emphasized there should be no more confrontation between the two Koreas.
무엇보다도 온 결의가 전쟁 없는 평화로운 땅에서 번영과 행복을 누리는 새 시대를 열어나갈 확고한 의지를 같이 하고 이를 위한 실천적 대책들을 합의하였습니다. 이토록 지척에 살고 있는 우리는 대결하여 싸워야 할 이민족이 아니라 단합하여 화목하게 살아야 할 한 핏줄을 이은 한 민족입니다.
The leaders of Seoul and Pyongyang reaffirmed their will to not use military force in any form and agreed to gradually disarm both sides of the border as they strive to alleviate military tension and make progress in building mutual trust. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
Now, one of the most intriguing parts of the Inter-Korean Summit Day was in the late afternoon when the two leaders took part in a tree planting ceremony and went for a walk along a nearby footbridge. The cameras were focused on Moon and Kim as they were locked in conversation for a good half an hour, providing us with a glimpse of what normally happens behind closed doors. Kwon Jang-ho with the details.
First on the agenda in the afternoon was the planting of a commemorative tree. Shortly before 4:30 p.m, President Moon Jae-in emerged from the Peace House at Panmunjom. He eschewed the red carpet and motorcade and walked to the tree with his advisors. Meanwhile, Kim Jong-un turned up in a black limousine with his security personnel running alongside. After another quick handshake, the two leaders each picked up a shovel and completed the planting of a pine tree with soil from Paektu Mountain in North Korea and from Halla Mountain in South Korea's Jeju Island. Pine trees hold an auspicious place in Korean history, representing peace and prosperity, and this one itself was originally sown in 1953, the year that hostilities ended in the Korean War. Kim offered a few comments before they continued to water the tree, again with water from rivers in the Koreas. A monument commemorating the occasion was unveiled with the words, "Here we plant peace and prosperity." Then they took a short stroll towards a footbridge where they looked at an old signpost that marked the military demarcation line before they sat down together at a table. The cameramen that had followed them were shooed away before they engaged in talks lasting some 30 minutes. This was the opportunity for the two leaders to have a frank discussion away from other officials and the press. What did the leaders talk about? That we may never know. The two leaders then walked back to the Peace House to continue their afternoon summit talks. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
Now, the day of the Inter-Korean summit began with a moment that will long be remembered. Millions upon millions of people around the world watched as Kim Jong-un became the first North Korean leader to step foot on South Korean soil. In an unexpected gesture, he invited President Moon to step briefly over onto the North Korean side as well. Taking a look back at the morning session for us is our Park Ji-won.
President Moon Jae-in greets North Korean leader Kim Jong-un at the military demarcation line at Panmunjom, the tourist village that straddles the inner Korean border. At 9:30 a.m. South Korea time, the two leaders shook hands and Kim took a historic step forward onto South Korean soil. It was the first time a sitting North Korean leader had stepped foot on South Korean territory in nearly 70 years. Kim took President Moon's hand and invited him to the northern side, and the South Korean leader stepped over into the north. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Kim Jong-un was greeted by a guard of honor laid on by the South Korean military. President Moon told Kim if he visits Cheongwade, South Korea's presidential office, he could see a full guard of honor. Kim replied that he'd visit Cheongwade anytime if invited. The two leaders began their summit talks from 10:15 a.m. at the Peace House in Panmunjom. President Moon was accompanied by Presidential Chief of Staff Im Jong-seok and National Intelligence Service Chief Seo Hoon, while Kim Jong-un was joined by his sister Kim Yo-jong and North Korea's ceremonial leader Kim Young-nam. Their morning meeting lasted for about an hour and 40 minutes, wrapping up at 11:55 a.m. South Korea time when the two sides broke for lunch. Kim Jong-un and the other North Korean delegates headed back to the North Korean side for a bit to eat, bringing a successful end to the morning session of the historic summit. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Now, US President Donald Trump congratulated the leaders of the two Koreas on their summit during a ceremony for the US Olympic and Paralympic medalists that happened at the White House on Friday. Here's a look at what he had to say.
On the occasion of this week's meeting between President Moon and Kim Jong-un, I want to express my hope that all of the people of Korea, North Korea and South, can someday live in harmony, prosperity, and peace. And it looks like it could happen.
President Trump also said he's looking forward to meeting Kim Jong-un in the coming weeks, where they will seek denuclearization, and that it should be quite something. He added that he hopes Olympic athletes will be able to compete on a Korean Peninsula that's free of nuclear weapons. He also mentioned on the same day that the number of potential summit venues have been narrowed down to 2. And that's where we're going to wrap it up for now. We'll be back at 10 a.m. Korea time with all the latest news and reaction to the historic agreement reached between the leaders of the two Koreas. Thank you ever so much for joining us, and stay tuned to Arirang TV. We'll see you again at 10. Until then, goodbye.
Yeah, well, this is the proverbial walk in the woods where they carve out a kind of private space. When you walk with someone, you can have silence for a little while and then you can restart the conversation. It's a different, I think a lot of this staging is trying to give them different settings in which they can talk, because you talk in a different way when you're sitting across a conference table and your teams are there than when you're alone. You talk differently when you take a walk in the woods, so I think this is putting them in different kind of perspectives. Obviously the camera's still on them, so this is a false privacy, and yet we are still at a remove, and they create that kind of veil where they're able to talk.